I'd like to move now to the presentation from CNSC staff as outlined CMD 16H 8.A. I understand that Ms. Tadros will make the presentation. Please proceed.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the Commission. For the record, my name is Heidi Tadros. I am the Director General of the Directorate of Nuclear Cycle and Facilities Regulation. With me today, on my left, are my colleagues Kavita Murthy and Mr. John Thielen, to her left, as well as Mr. Ben Priere, Senior Project Officers and Inspectors of the same division. We are also joined by other CNSC colleagues familiar with this file and who are available to answer any questions the Commission may have. Our presentation today will cover Cameco's application to renew the fuel fabrication operating license for the Port Hope conversion facility, requesting authorization for continued operation for a period of 10 years. Our presentation, identified as CMD 16-H8A, provides a summary as well as highlights from CNSC staff's written submission found in CMD 16-H8. We will begin by first summarizing the purpose of this hearing, followed by highlights of the hearing interventions, an overview of the Port Hope conversion facility, a summary of CNSC staff's regulatory oversight of Cameco's facility, as well as CNSC staff's assessment of Cameco's performance over the current license period. The proposed licensed and draft license conditions handbook will also be discussed, followed by CNSC staff's conclusions and recommendations to the Commission on the license renewal request by Cameco for the Port Hope conversion facility. Cameco's license renewal application was submitted in November 2015 with a supplemental submission provided in August 2016. In their submissions, and as you've heard from Cameco today, Cameco has requested that the Commission renew its operating license for a period of 10 years to cover the activities they've just highlighted. As a result of CNSC staff's review of the application, as well as safe operating performance at the Port Hope conversion facility for the current license period, staff recommends that the Commission issue Cameco a 10-year license. I will now pass the presentation over to my colleagues, who will begin by discussing interventions for this proceeding.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the Commission. My name is Kavita Murthy, and I am the Director of Nuclear Processing Facilities Division, the CNSC division that is responsible for managing the regulatory oversight of Cameco's Port Hope conversion facility. I have been a Regulatory Program Director at the CNSC for 12 years. Notices of this public hearing were published on the CNSC's public website starting in March 2016. To support public participation in the regulatory review process, participant funding of up to $50,000 was offered to interveners through the CNSC's participant funding program. Funding was awarded to the 4 groups listed on this slide. CNSC staff and Cameco's Commission member documents were made available to the public on September 4th. 25 oral and 19 written interventions are included as a part of these proceedings for the license renewal of Port Hope conversion facility. Hearing interventions covered a broad range of topics, several of which are addressed in this presentation. Staff are prepared to respond to the Commission questions regarding these as well as all other interventions associated with these proceedings. Over the next few slides, I'll provide an overview of the location and layout of the Port Hope conversion facility, and I will discuss the primary operations carried out at this facility. Cameco owns and operates 3 facilities in Ontario that are licensed by the CNSC. Cameco's Port Hope conversion facility, the scope of today's presentation, is located within the municipality of Port Hope and is situated on the north shore of Lake Ontario, approximately 100 kilometers east of the city of Toronto. Cameco's other 2 licensed facilities are the Blind River Refinery, located in Blind River in northern Ontario, and the Cameco Fuel Manufacturing Facility, also located in the municipality of Port Hope. The safety performance of Blind River Refinery and Cameco fuel manufacturing facilities are presented in Commission Member Document 16-M43 and will be discussed on November 10th here. The layout of the Port Hope conversion facility is shown on this slide. It consists of two sites in the municipality of Port Hope. Site 1 is shown in the lower portion of the slide, and it is the main site property at 1 Eldorado Place, and the Centerpier property located at 1 Hayward Street. As shown in this figure, these two properties are separated by the Port Hope Harbor. Primary facility operations are carried out at Site 1, including the uranium hexafluoride or UF6 plant operations in Building 50 and the uranium dioxide or UO2 plant operations in Building 24. Site 1 is also used for the storage of drums and cylinders of UF6 and UO2 product, as well as the storage of various products, equipment, and drummed legacy waste. Site 2, shown in the upper right portion of this slide, is located at 158 Dorset Street East in the municipality of Port Hope. This site is used primarily for the storage of equipment and waste. Cameco's current license was issued by the Commission on February 28, 2012, and is valid until February 28, 2017. The license authorizes the processing and storage of uranium compounds for the purposes of UO2 and UF6 production. The license also requires Cameco to remain within established production and release limits, control, monitor, and record releases to the environment, implement and maintain programs to ensure the health, safety, and security of workers, the public, and the environment, and implement and maintain a process for reporting compliance, performance, and reporting of events to the Cnsc and to the public. This simplified diagram on the slide depicts the UF6 production process. In this process, UO3 powder received from Cameco's Blind River facility is pulverized and treated in fluidized bed reactors with hydrogen gas to produce UO2. The UO2 powder is subsequently reacted with hydrofluoric acid to form a uranium tetrafluoride or UF4 slurry. After drying and calcining processes, UF4 in powder form is reacted with fluorine gas to produce UF6 in a gaseous state. The fluorine gas used in this step is produced on-site by dissociating hydrofluoric acid into hydrogen and fluorine gases. Next, UF6 is condensed into a liquid and transferred into cylinders where it solidifies. And finally, the UF6 product is exported for further processing into fuel for light water reactors. The license limit for UF6 production is 12,500 metric tons per year or 45 metric tons per day. The simplified diagram on this slide depicts the UO2 production process. In this process, UO3 powder is dissolved in nitric acid to produce uranyl nitrate. This solution reacts with aqueous ammonia to precipitate ammonium diuronate. The solids produced by this process are dewatered, dried, and reduced in a hydrogen environment to produce UO2 powder. The UO2 product is transported off-site and used in the manufacture of CANDU reactor fuel. The license limit for UO2 production is 2,800 metric tons per year. In its application for license renewal, Cameco has requested no changes to the existing production limits for UF6 and UO2. Cnsc staff are recommending that the Commission update release limits for UF6 and UO2 plant operations and for gamma radiation and add a release limit for sanitary sewer discharges. No changes are proposed to the action levels associated with these limits. CNSC staff's written submission, CMD 16-H8, proposed a sanitary sewer limit of 1825 kilograms per year. At this time, CNSC staff are recommending a revised proposed release limit, one that also takes into consideration chemical toxicity of uranium to the public and sensitive species of aquatic environment. This recommendation is discussed in greater detail within this presentation. In its application, Cameco has outlined its plan for cleanup, remediation, and renewal work on its site, including the implementation of the Vision in Motion, or VIM, project, a revised decommissioning plan, as well as an augmented financial guarantee of $128,600,000 has been proposed. This value represents an increase of $26.9 million from the existing financial guarantee and fully covers the cost of implementation of this decommissioning plan. During the 10-year license period requested, the licensee proposes to implement the Vision in Motion, or VIM, project, which was described in great detail by the licensee. An environmental assessment under the Canadian Environmental Assessment Act 1992 concluded that this proposed project is not likely to cause adverse environmental effect, taking into account the mitigation measures identified in the Environmental Assessment Comprehensive Study Report. An EA follow-up program has been developed by the licensee in consultation with CNSC staff. CNSC staff are satisfied that the scope of this program will be adequate for verifying any changes to the environment as a result of VIM project activities, and will ensure that adequate controls are in place for the protection of the environment and the public during VIM implementation. The VIM project will be carried out under existing licensed programs such as environmental and radiation protection programs, as well as the existing site-specific cleanup program to carry out remediation and renewal work. This includes mitigation measures identified as a part of the EA for this project. I will now pass the presentation over to Mr. John Thielen, who will speak to the CNSC's regulatory oversight of the Port Hope conversion facility, as well as CNSC staff's assessment of Cameco's performance during the current license period.
Thank you. Mr. President and members of the Commission, for the record, my name is John Thielen. I'm an inspector and senior project officer within the Nuclear Processing Facilities Division of the CNSC. I'm also responsible for coordinating CNSC staff's technical evaluation of Cameco's license renewal application. The next few slides discuss CNSC's regulatory oversight of the Port Hope conversion facility. The CNSC has a robust regulatory framework in place to ensure the continued safe operation of licensed nuclear facilities, including Cameco's Port Hope conversion facility. Regulatory oversight is provided by CNSC staff to ensure licensees operate in a safe manner in compliance with the requirements of the Nuclear Safety Control Act and associated regulations, as well as license conditions and applicable regulatory requirements. The CNSC verifies compliance through site inspections and the review of operational activities and licensee documentation. Licensees are required to report routine performance data and unusual occurrences. In addition, CNSC staff carry out investigations of unplanned events or accidents that occur at the licensed site. To complement existing and ongoing compliance activities through the Independent Environmental Monitoring Program, or IEMP, staff collect samples of environmental media and analyze them in CNSC's analytical laboratory. CNSC's approach to compliance includes activities to encourage compliance, verification activities to assess compliance, and graduated enforcement actions in cases of non-compliance. Over the current license period, CNSC staff spent roughly 3,000 person days of regulatory oversight effort. Over this same period, staff conducted 27 on-site compliance inspections, as well as numerous other site visits, meetings, and events involving CNSC technical specialists. The increased licensing effort in 2016, as noted on this slide, is a reflection of the effort associated with the reviews of documents submitted for this license and staff's preparation for this current license renewal process. Inspections conducted by CNSC staff during the current license period did not identify any safety significant findings. Findings are initially presented to the licensee at the end of the on-site portion of an inspection in a preliminary report of facts and findings, followed formally by a detailed inspection report. Wherever the CNSC inspection team identified improvements to Cameco's programs, these are also provided in the form of recommendations in these reports. When a non-compliance is identified, CNSC staff assess the significance of the non-compliance, determine the appropriate enforcement action, and relay this to the licensee in the detailed inspection report. The implementation of corrective actions is continually monitored through to closure under regulatory oversight and is tracked in CNSC staff's using the Regulatory Information Bank tool. Cameco is required to notify and report to the CNSC of situations or events of potential safety significance, for example, events that could lead to a serious adverse effect on the environment or serious risk to the health and safety of persons or the maintenance of security if no action is taken by the licensee. Cameco has also implemented a public information program that includes a disclosure protocol. Under the requirements of this program, events and incidences of interest to its stakeholder community are disseminated to the public. Internally, Cameco uses its Incident Reporting System, or SIRS, to report and follow up and trend incidents. Externally, they submit compliance and performance reports to the CNSC and routinely report on the results of ongoing monitoring activities and submit these as compliance reports that cover a variety of safety-related topics to CNSC staff. Event reports that are significant in nature or may be of significant public interest are brought to the attention of the Commission during public meetings by CNSC staff. Cameco also publishes information about these events in compliance reports as well as key license renewal documentation placed on its website. CNSC staff also report annually to the Commission on licensees' performance in the form of regulatory oversight reporting. As stated earlier, a separate Commission proceeding will be held in Port Hope at this venue in 2 days' time, during which CNSC staff will present the regulatory oversight report for nuclear processing, small research reactor, and Class 1B accelerator facilities for the reporting year of 2015. This presentation is identified as CMD 16-M43A. This slide summarizes the outcome of reporting over the current license period. All worker doses and environmental releases were below regulatory limits during this period. There were 42 events reported to the CNSC staff by Cameco. I bring this value to the attention of the Commission, as the value on this slide should read 42, as is indicated in staff's written submission, CMD 16-H8. Of these events, 3 were reported to the Commission during public proceedings, and 2 events met the criteria of Event Initial Reports, or EIRs, and were reported on June 19, 2014 and December 17, 2014. For all reportable events, Cameco followed up with corrective actions and causal analyses where appropriate. Action levels provide early indication of a potential loss of control of the radiological protection or environmental protection programs. Exceedances require notification to the CNSC. During the current license period, there have been a total of 3 instances where action levels were reached. In the case of these 3 exceedances, there was no impact on the health of workers, the public, or the environment, and Cameco developed an acceptable corrective action plan to address identified causes. For the current license period, all events and exceedances were promptly reported to the Cnsc and other relevant regulators, and none of these events or exceedances compromised the safety of workers, the public, or the environment. As per its normal public notification process for Commission proceedings, Cnsc staff informed the public about this hearing via Cnsc's website, an email subscription list, social media channels, and print advertisements in the local community. The Cnsc also hosted an information session titled Cnsc 101 in the municipality of Port Hope in May of 2016. This session provided those in attendance with an introduction to the Cnsc and the work it does to ensure that nuclear facilities in the municipality of Port Hope and beyond are safe, and how the public can participate in the licensing process. Cnsc staff returned to Port Hope in September of this year to participate in a local event where staff had the opportunity to meet many fairgoers and discuss our mandate as well as this hearing. Staff also regularly communicate with representatives of the municipality of Port Hope, as well as environmental regulators, including Environment and Climate Change Canada, or ECCC, and the Ontario Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, or MOECC. I will now turn our attention to Cnsc staff's performance assessment of current operations at the Port Hope Conversion Facility. Regulatory oversight is performed in accordance with a standard set of safety and control areas, or SCAs. SCAs are technical topics used across all Cnsc regulated facilities and activities to assess, evaluate, review, verify, and report on licensee regulatory requirements and performance. As detailed in Cnsc staff's written submission, Cameco maintained a satisfactory rating across all SCAs during the current license period. To summarize Cnsc staff's evaluation of Cameco's performance for the current licensing period, as detailed in our written submission, Port Hope Conversion Facility programs have met regulatory requirements and are effectively implemented by Cameco. Worker doses and environmental releases have remained below regulatory limits, and Cameco's performance has been satisfactory in all SCAs for the current license period. Staff will continue to monitor this performance through regulatory oversight activities, including ongoing on-site inspections and technical review of compliance reports, as well as revisions to Cameco's programs and other relevant licensing documentation, in order to continue to verify adequate protection for the workers, the public, and the environment. The following slides will provide a summary as well as highlights from staff's written submission, CMD 16-H8. While staff's written submission covered all 14 SCAs for the current licensing period, the 10 SCAs selected and presented on the following slides were considered to be of particular interest to stakeholders, the public, and the Commission. The Safety and Control Area, or SCA Management System, covers the framework that establishes the processes and programs required to ensure an organization achieves its safety objectives, continually monitors its performance against these objectives, and fosters a healthy safety culture. Cameco has a management system in place that meets regulatory requirements, and staff monitor Cameco's implementation of this program through compliance verification activities. On-site inspections during the current license period included verification of the operational readiness for restart after a shutdown, compliance activities associated with reportable events, and verification activities associated with implementation of the Cameco Incident Reporting System, or CIRS. Cameco has also committed to the full implementation of Canadian Standards Association, or CSA, N286-12 management system requirements for nuclear facilities by the end of 2017. The SCA Human Performance Management covers activities that enable effective human performance through the development and implementation of processes that ensure a sufficient number of licensee personnel are in all relevant job areas and have the necessary knowledge, skills, procedures, and tools in place to safely carry out their duties. Cameco has in place a robust, documented, systematic approach to training, or SAT-based training system, and a training plan that meets regulatory requirements identified in Cnsc Reg Doc 2.2.2 personnel training. While Cnsc staff have concluded that Cameco's ability to manage human performance is satisfactory, the current license period performance ratings have primarily focused on the human performance management specific area personnel training. Other elements of this SCA have been examined in the context of inspections of other SCAs. Therefore, Cnsc staff have recommended a new standardized human performance management license condition. The SCA safety analysis covers the maintenance of the safety analysis that supports the overall safety case for the facility. Under this SCA, the licensee is required to systematically evaluate all potential hazards associated with its operations, and in doing so, consider the effectiveness of preventive measures and strategies in reducing or eliminating the potential effects of such hazards. Cameco maintains a safety report for the Port Hope conversion facility that has been found by staff to effectively identify facility hazards and items relied on for safety to control or mitigate on-site hazards. Cameco also maintains a fire hazard analysis report which complies with the requirements of the National Building Code of Canada, the National Fire Code of Canada, and the National Fire Protection Association's requirements. Cameco continues to maintain the nuclear criticality safety program for its site, its operations. Enriched material stored at the Port Hope conversion facility is primarily related to legacy waste from past operations, and Cameco continues to look for a means for off-site safe disposal. The SCA Fitness for Service covers activities that impact the physical condition of structures, systems, and components to ensure that they remain effective over time. A requirement of this SCA is for the licensee to implement programs that ensure all equipment is available to perform its intended design function when called upon to do so. Cameco has identified safety significant structures, systems, and components at the Port Hope conversion facility and implemented a preventive maintenance program to ensure effectiveness of these structures or components over time. As part of an on-site operational reliability program, in-service inspection or preventative maintenance are performed to ensure that safety significant structures, systems, and components remain effective over time. And Cameco's in-service inspection and testing program also applies to piping and vessels, which are subject to deterioration as a result of the conditions in which they operate. Findings are that there were no major equipment failures reported during the current licensing period. Staff also routinely inspect records associated with Cameco's preventive maintenance program, and by doing so have determined that the conduct of required maintenance at the required frequency has taken place. In annual compliance reporting to the Cnsc, Cameco summarizes all major work performed on systems and equipment to maintain their fitness for service. These reports are publicly available on Cameco's website. The Safety Control Area Radiation Protection covers the implementation of a radiation protection program in accordance with the radiation protection regulations. Radiation exposures are monitored at the Port Hope conversion facility site to ensure compliance with Cnsc's regulatory dose limits and with keeping radiation doses as low as reasonably achievable or ALERA. The majority of workers at Cameco have been designated as nuclear energy workers or NEWs in accordance with the radiation protection regulations. The chart on this slide shows the annual effective doses to on-site NEWs. The red line at the top of the chart represents the annual regulatory dose limit of 50 millisieverts for this class of worker. The maximum effective dose received by any worker in the current licensing period was 7 millisieverts. Throughout the current license period, no nuclear energy workers' radiation exposure exceeded these Cnsc regulatory dose limits. Radiation dose to the public are estimated from annual atmospheric emissions, fence line gamma monitoring, and groundwater releases. As shown on this slide, Cameco's environmental releases outside of the facility over the licensing period have resulted in low doses well below the regulatory limit of 1 millisievert per year to members of the public. Cnsc staff are satisfied that Cameco has implemented and maintained an effective radiation protection program during the current license period. Radiation doses received by individuals are monitored, controlled, and maintained as low as reasonably achievable. The SCA Conventional Health and Safety covers the implementation of a program to manage workplace safety hazards and to protect personnel and equipment. As shown in the table presented on this slide, the frequency of lost time injuries, or LTIs, remained low for the current license period. Cameco summarizes these and other information pertaining to maintaining a safe workplace in the annual compliance reporting to the Cnsc, reports that are publicly available on their website. They've implemented an effective health and safety program during the current licensing period and continue to demonstrate an ability to keep workers safe from occupational injuries. The Safety and Control Area Environmental Protection covers programs that identify, control, and monitor all releases of nuclear and hazardous substances and effects on the environment from facilities or as a result of licensed activities. This includes requirements for effluent and emissions controls, the assessment and monitoring of the receiving environment, as well as requirements related to environmental management system and environmental risk assessment. This slide shows monitoring results of emissions to air compared to Cnsc license limits. Airborne releases are set to ensure that no member of the public will receive a dose greater than 0.05 millisieverts per year, which is 1/20th of the public dose limit, and that the environment is protected. Airborne release limits for fluoride and ammonia are also set at levels that are protective of workers, the public, and the environment. Additionally, the Ontario Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, or MOECC, issues an environmental compliance approval, or ECA, that provides assurances that airborne releases comply with provincial chemical toxicity requirements. To summarize, air emissions continue to be effectively controlled and remain consistently below license limits for the current license period. Liquid releases of processed water are not permitted under the current license issued by the Commission. Processed water is evaporated at the site wastewater treatment plant. Non-processed wastewater is released to the sanitary sewer and includes contributions from the powerhouse steam boiler and air compressor, laboratory instrumentation cooling water, as well as site restrooms. As part of its license renewal application, Cameco submitted revised derived release limit, or DRL, and operational release limit, ORL, documents. These documents were reviewed and accepted by Cnsc staff. Releases to the sanitary sewer over the current licensing period are shown on this slide. Cnsc staff had proposed a release limit of 1825 kilograms a year for uranium in consideration of a radiological dose of 0.05 millisieverts per year to a member of the public. And as mentioned earlier, staff recommend a revised proposed limit that will be discussed in greater detail in the recommendations portion of this presentation. Pictured here is the network of groundwater wells at Port Hope Conversion Facility's Site 1's main site. As discussed during Cameco's previous license renewal hearing, actions taken to address uranium contamination in groundwater included the establishment of this network. There are a total of 12 groundwater capture wells in place, as well as an additional 81 shallow and deep monitoring wells. At present, Cameco evaporates all groundwater captured by the system. And overall, Cnsc staff have found that Cameco's groundwater monitoring program, including groundwater capture, have been performing as expected. The ongoing performance of this system is continually monitored and provides assurances that surface water quality is adequately protected. Pictured here is a conceptual site model for the Port Hope Conversion Facility Site 1's main site, indicating site pathways to the public. An environmental risk assessment for the Port Hope Conversion Facility was submitted as part of the license renewal application. Staff are of the opinion that this assessment complies with CSA standard N288.6-12, environmental risk assessments at Class 1 nuclear facilities and uranium mines. And based on staff's review, we have concluded that ecological receptors as well as human health is adequately protected from facility operations. Environmental monitoring results, including groundwater, surface water, soil, and gamma exposure, are collected as part of Cameco's ongoing monitoring program and confirm that the public and the environment continue to be protected. The environmental monitoring program will also be updated using the results of the 2016 environmental risk assessment. Cameco is also transitioning by the end of 2017 to full implementation of the requirements of CSA standard N288.4-10 environmental monitoring programs and CSA N288.5-11 effluent monitoring programs. Staff conclude that Cameco continues to implement and maintain effective environmental protection programs for its facility. The Safety and Control Area, Emergency Management and Fire Protection, covers emergency plans and emergency preparedness programs that exist for emergencies and non-routine conditions. This SCA also includes the requirement for Cameco to have a comprehensive fire protection program to minimize the risk to the health and safety of persons and the environment from fire through appropriate fire protection system design, fire safety analysis, fire safe operation, and fire prevention. Cameco's emergency preparedness measures met applicable Cnsc regulatory and performance objectives, and staff monitor Cameco's implementation of this program through regular compliance verification activities. As will be mentioned later in this presentation, staff are also satisfied that Cameco has enhanced its emergency response capabilities in response to the Fukushima event. Cameco is also committed to the full implementation by the end of 2017 of Cnsc regulatory document, Reg Doc 2.10.1, Nuclear Emergency Preparedness and Response, as well as CSA Standard N393-13, Fire Protection for Facilities that Process, Handle, or Store Nuclear Substances. The Safety and Control Area Waste Management covers internal waste-related programs that form part of Cameco's operations at the Port Hope Conversion Facility, up to the point where the waste is removed from the facility to a separate waste management facility. This area also covers the planning for decommissioning. Under its waste management program, Cameco minimizes the generation of waste at the Port Hope Conversion Facility and disposes of waste in accordance with Cnsc regulatory requirements. Cameco also maintains a cleanup program to carry out cleanup, remediation, and renewal work. The VIM project will be carried out under this existing program. Cnsc staff verify that the waste management and cleanup programs are in place as part of regular oversight of the Port Hope Conversion Facility. Cameco is required to maintain decommissioning plans throughout the life cycle of the Port Hope Conversion Facility as well, and Cameco's plan meets the requirements of CSA Standard N294-09, decommissioning of facilities containing nuclear substances, and Cnsc Regulatory Guide G219, decommissioning planning for licensed activities. By the end of September 2017, Cameco has also committed to implement the requirements of standards N292.0-14, General Principles for the Management of Radioactive Waste and Irradiated Fuel, and N292.3-14, Management of Low and Intermediate Level Radioactive Waste. Cameco will be required to update waste-related licensing documents as it transitions to implement these and other new and upcoming relevant CSA standards and regulatory documents. Finally, the SCA Packaging and Transport covers programs for the safe packaging and transport of nuclear substances to and from the Port Hope Conversion Facility. The Packaging and Transport of Nuclear Substances Regulations 2015 apply to the packaging and transport of nuclear substances, including the design, production, use, inspection, maintenance, and repair of packages, and the preparation, consigning, handling, loading, carriage, and unloading of packages. As part of Cnsc's compliance verification program, inspection staff conduct compliance inspections to verify that Cameco's packaging and transport activities adhere to these requirements. Cnsc staff can confirm that the Port Hope Conversion Facility's packaging and transport program meets all regulatory requirements. I will now turn our attention to other regulatory matters identified in staff's written submission, CMD 16-H8, that may be of particular interest to local stakeholders and public and the Commission. Each of these topics is described in more detail in the following slides. As part of Cnsc staff's review of the license renewal application, staff conducted an environmental assessment under the Nuclear and Safety Control Act. This assessment included existing operations as well as the scope of the Vision in Motion project. This document was provided as an appendix to staff's written submission. Based on the EA under SIA for Vision in Motion and the EA under the NSCA, Cameco has demonstrated that they will continue to make adequate provision for the protection of human health and the environment. The objective of the Cnsc Independent Environmental Monitoring Program, or IEMP, is to verify that public health and the environment is not adversely affected by releases to the environment around Cnsc regulated facilities, to confirm that the licensee's environmental protection program adequately protects the public and the environment, and to complement the Cnsc compliance program. Site-specific sampling plans are developed for publicly accessible areas and locations and identify all media to be sampled. In 2014 and 2015, Cnsc staff carried out an independent environmental monitoring program around the Port Hope Conversion Facility. Air, water, soil, and vegetation samples were analyzed for uranium, and water samples were also analyzed for fluoride, nitrate, and ammonia. These four constituents are tied to operational releases from the facility. More specific data results are provided on the following slide. IEMP results are summarized on the right-hand portion of this slide. The concentrations of uranium in air, water, and soil, as well as fluoride, nitrate, and ammonia were below levels in federal and provincial environmental quality standards and guidelines. There are no guidelines for vegetation. The exceptions were in fluoride concentrations at 5 water locations in 2014 and 2 water locations in 2015. These elevated fluoride concentrations measured in water were below the provincial drinking water guideline, but above the conservative Canadian water quality guidelines for the protection of aquatic life value of 0.12 milligrams per liter, but remain much lower than the relevant toxicity benchmark of 11.5 milligrams per liter for sensitive aquatic biota. Overall, the IEMP results are consistent with Cameco's Environmental Protection Program results and indicate that the public and the environment around Port Hope Conversion Facility are protected. As we're all fully aware, a magnitude 9 earthquake struck off the coast of Japan in March 11, 2011, and resulted in a large, devastating tsunami, which led to a nuclear accident at TEPCO's Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. On April 8, 2011, Cameco responded to a request made by the Cnsc pursuant to subsection 12.2 of the General Nuclear Safety Control Regulations concerning the lessons learned from this event. In response, Cameco took immediate actions and retained a third-party expert to conduct a thorough review of their operations and programs in terms of the defense in depth concept. Cameco has since strengthened defense in depth and enhanced emergency response capabilities by implementing changes to their existing programs. Cnsc staff reviewed Cameco's corrective actions and concluded that they are satisfactory and have verified that all Fukushima-related action items have been implemented. Staff are satisfied that Cameco has enhanced its emergency response capabilities in response to this event as well. With respect to Fukushima action items, Cnsc staff are satisfied that these actions are closed. Under paragraph 24.5 of the Nuclear Safety and Control Act, Cameco is required to provide a financial guarantee in a form that is acceptable to the Commission. Cameco uses letters of credit for their financial guarantee and currently has $101.7 million in effect. This value was accepted by the Commission as documented in the record of proceeding associated with the renewal hearing associated with Cameco's current license. As stated earlier in this presentation and by Cameco, they propose to increase by $26.9 million its letters of credit to reflect an updated total augmented financial guarantee value of $128.6 million. The difference is primarily tied to increases in labor rates, waste transportation and soil excavation, changes in indirect costs including contingencies, as well as engineering and construction management costs. Staff have assessed this cost estimate against Regulatory Guide G-206, Financial Guarantees for the Decommissioning of Licensed Activities, and consider that the proposed amount is adequate for decommissioning of the Port Hope conversion facility. Cnsc staff are satisfied that Cameco's proposed financial guarantee is therefore adequate for future decommissioning and recommend that the Commission accept this proposed revised financial guarantee in the amount of $128.6 million. This slide provides a summary as well as highlights from other portions of Cnsc staff's written submission, CMD 16-H8, with respect to other regulatory matters. In addition to Cameco's requirement to have in place satisfactory financial guarantees in place for decommissioning, Cameco also remains in compliance with the Cnsc cost recovery fees regulations and has fulfilled its obligations regarding maintaining nuclear liability insurance. Cameco also has a well-established public information program for its Port Hope conversion facility, as well as the Cameco fuel manufacturing facility, as these two facilities share a common target audience and communication activities. Both facilities have undertaken numerous activities in the municipality of Port Hope and an effort to improve and maintain communication with those interested in and concerned about their facilities and activities, including implementation of the Vision in Motion project. During the current licensing period, Cameco has also carried out numerous public meetings and continued with mail-outs of community newsletters to all addresses in the municipality. Early in the review process for Cameco's license renewal application, Aboriginal groups who have an interest in the Port Hope conversion facility were identified by staff, provided information about the licensing process, and encouraged to participate in this Commission public hearing and to also apply for funding through Cnsc's participant funding program. I will now pass the presentation back to Ms. Haiti Tadros, who will turn our attention to Cnsc staff's proposed license as well as overall conclusions and recommendations.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Haiti Tadros. Cnsc staff recommend that the Commission issue Cameco a license that contains standard license conditions plus 3 facility-specific license conditions. A copy of a proposed license was appended to Cnsc staff's written submission, CMD 16-H8. Cnsc staff have proposed 1 nuclear facility-specific license condition that requires Cameco to implement and maintain a program to carry out cleanup, decontamination, demolition, and remediation work. Cnsc staff have also proposed 2 license conditions that require Cameco to not exceed the limit for a small quantity of fissionable material as defined by Cnsc regulatory document RD 327 Nuclear Criticality Safety, and also require Cameco to implement and maintain a nuclear criticality safety program. A draft license conditions handbook was provided as an appendix to Cnsc staff's written submission. This document provides compliance verification criteria used to verify compliance with the conditions in the license and also includes non-mandatory recommendations and guidance on enhancing the effectiveness of the safety and control measures. This slide highlights Cnsc staff continued assessment and verification of Cameco's performance, Cameco will continue to update Port Hope Conversion Facility documentation as it transitions to implement new and upcoming Canadian Standards Association standards and Cnsc regulatory documents. As part of staff's annual regulatory oversight reporting to the Commission, Cnsc staff will continue to evaluate and report back to the Commission on an annual basis on the progress Cameco is making in transitioning to fully implement these standards and regulatory requirements. Cameco will continue to update Port Hope Conversion Facility documentation as it transitions to implement new and upcoming CSA standards and Cnsc regulatory documents as identified in the table on this slide. Cnsc staff's conclusions and recommendations follow. So to wrap up staff's presentation, Cameco's license renewal application submissions were evaluated, and existing Port Hope Conversion Facility programs, resources, and measures in place to protect health and safety of persons and the environment, to ensure security, and to meet Canada's international safeguards obligations were assessed. Cnsc staff's conclusions and recommendations considered this evaluation as well as overall assessment of Cameco's compliance with the Nuclear Safety and Control Act and its regulations during the current license period. In conclusion, Cnsc staff have conducted the following with respect to paragraphs 24(4)(a) and (b) of the Nuclear Safety and Control Act, in that Cameco is qualified to carry on the activity authorized by the license, will, in carrying out that activity, make adequate provisions for the protection of the environment, the health and safety of persons, and the maintenance of national security and measures required to implement international obligations to which Canada has agreed. Cnsc staff recommend that the Commission accept Cnsc staff's conclusions and recommendations presented in staff's written submission, to authorize Cameco to operate Port Hope Conversion Facility from March 1, 2017 to February 28, 2027, pursuant to Section 24(2) of the Nuclear Safety and Control Act. In recommending a 10-year license term, Cnsc staff took into consideration Cameco's operating experience and demonstrated compliance in carrying out the activities under its current license. Cnsc staff also took into consideration the robustness of Cameco's existing programs that provide assurance that safety significant activities are examined and that safety is maintained. Cameco also intends to fully implement the Vision in Motion project during the proposed 10-year license period. Annual reporting to the Commission at public proceedings allow for frequent public updates regarding the status of VIM project implementation as well as licensee performance, an update on Cnsc regulatory oversight activities, and Cameco's transition to implement new and upcoming CSA standards and Cnsc regulatory documents. Taking all of this into consideration, Cnsc staff view that a 10-year license would allow Cameco to continue its safe operation while maintaining transparency of operation, public engagement, and adequate regulatory oversight. Finally, Cnsc staff also recommend that the Commission accept the proposed revised, augmented financial guarantee for this facility. As has been mentioned in our presentation with respect to the proposed release limits identified in Table 8 of Cnsc staff's written submission, Cnsc staff recommend that the Commission accept release limits for air and gamma radiation as noted in Cnsc staff's written submission, with one exception. With respect to the sanitary sewer release limits, Cnsc staff had proposed a sanitary sewer release limit of 1,825 kilograms per year for uranium based on radiological dose, with the intention of using the chemical toxicity to set an appropriate action level for uranium. We have since derived a sanitary sewer limit value based on chemical toxicity to address concerns raised by interveners and assure the Commission and the public that we do take environmental protection very seriously. Staff have used the CCME, Canadian Water Quality Guidelines, for the protection of aquatic life in its derivation and propose an interim concentration value of 275 micrograms per liter monthly as a suitable release limit, one that is conservatively protective of the public and the environment. This value takes into consideration not only radiological dose to the member of the public, but also the chemical toxicity of uranium to the public and sensitive species in the aquatic environment. The use of concentration units such as microgram per liter rather than annual loading value as originally proposed provides better evaluation of the receiving environment as compared to water quality guidelines for protection of sensitive aquatic life as well as drinking water standards. Additionally, by December 2016, Cameco is required to have in place Cnsc accepted action levels for sanitary sewer releases of uranium, values that, if exceeded, require notification to the Cnsc and an investigation by Cameco. Cnsc staff will continue to work with Cameco on the development of these values. We thank you for your attention. We are prepared to respond to any questions you may have.
Thank you. Okay, we are back. Before we start, I understand that staff want to make a correction.
Yes, sir. Haiti Tadros for the record. Towards the end on our slide 57, we just want to clarify CNC staff's recommendation regarding the interim concentration for uranium release limit to sanitary sewer is 275 micrograms per liter as a monthly average. This value is based on the CCME water quality guidelines for the protection of the aquatic life.
Okay, thank you.